We're going to talk about the immoral revolution. And before that, maybe we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up. We're intending on doing a yak at the end of this about the meaning of Fourier analysis, but that's later. First, we're going to talk about what happened when people started talking and how it changed the way we do things. But I'll just write down here later. We'll do a yak about. And I want to talk about the Fourier stuff because that's going to prepare for James' discussion about keyword searches and how you can predict the future. And it's also going to set up a troll hunt where we use basically word frequency analysis to track down who are actually identical people.
You said predict the future, and I like that because what I've found and experience based on observation, recall, reflection, and ability to read common signals is the ability to do just that by pattern reading, basically being really in tune with the way the different patterns are working both within the universe and then in patterns in society. And what'll be interesting with Fourier analysis is to see kind of the mathematical component of that. Is that a good way to put it? Is it mathematical? Do I have that right?
Yeah, and if you want to start with that, we can. But I thought we'd save that for later.
We can save that for later.
All right, so you got a few of our groups tagged.
About to here.
So I call it I kind of explained this before, but I'll explain it again. We call it the immoral revolution because a moral revolution, a moral system, is about making judgments, and it couldn't have been the judgment to start using one because that's back before we had one. Feelings, sensations, perceptions, these aren't moral acts. Morality is about judgment. Morality is not about discovering things. Morality is not about running into things. And I got this guy. You see, I got like the K-bar, right?
Yeah, I just got it shared in the political group, and anyone who hops on Tara's on. She said her internet's a little shoddy. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully ours is working all right. Fingers crossed. We'll find out when more people hop on. But whoever hops on, if they can tag some people. But yeah, I see that. I love the cave. So caveman ethics. Hit me.
And that's kind of where it started. That's and I should point out, I got this drawing of this guy with like this spear, right?
Yeah.
But William Calvin actually says that it probably wasn't a spear. It was probably a killer frisbee. Like we call it the hand axe, but it was actually like the size of your head.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What you did with it was you hit these guys in the back, and they would make their back legs buckle, and then you and your buddies could like rush up on them and stab them. And the reason I bring this all up is because William Calvin, he believes that it was the hand axe and the development of the neural structures that made language possible. So in a very real way, it was caveman ethics because they were like, the ancient people. We're talking like 30,000 years ago, right? That's about how long ago anybody even had language that they could have used to make judgments about. So that's the earliest that possibly could have had. But of course, the one that really interests us is the one that kind of comes down to us. And that's the one that you and I are both going to talk about. I did the intro, but when we talk about the moral revolution, back about 3,000 years ago, someone got the idea that we should know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which, now that's like, well, duh. Because we all kind of grew up as a result about it, right?
Yeah.
But back then it was a new idea, and that's why it was a revolution. And in some way, we can say that we're still finishing the revolution. Now you've been captivated now for a while about a particular piece of that revolution. Mm-hmm. You want to start with your ideas about it, or you want me to intro that too? Well,
I guess it would depend on what you're referencing there. Are you referencing the person or the? You tell. Obviously, mine. Jesus Christ, Paul, really that whole walk, and then Paul thereafter is always my piece. A lot of it is the particular revolution I zero in on. We've had some good discussions on that. But yeah, what were you going to say?
So one of the things that I had in mind, why do Christians get so powerful?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think I have insight into. That was my idea for a topic.
That's perfect. I love that topic because it's one of the most interesting topics. There were 120 Christians after the crucifixion. And from 120 Christians, with a prediction of the message of Christ being heard to all ends of the earth, it happened. And people kind of, I looked into this a while back. And
what are there's like 2 billion Christians now?
Yeah, I was just about to go there, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah, there's over 2 billion, and I looked up the like most watched YouTube videos since the inception of YouTube, and the message of Christ dwarfs that video every single Sunday. And to think that 120 people were able to initiate that, regardless of if you believe in any of the supernatural component of it, regardless of if you believe that there was a godly component of it, that should, in my opinion, interest anybody from a philosophy perspective on how did that happen? How did 120 people do that? Do you know how many people have had their philosophies die over that time period? And yet 120 got it to 2 point some odd billion every Sunday. With a prediction, and that's one of the cool parts, with a prediction of it being to all ends of the earth.
Well, to be fair, lots of religions were predicting that. Mm-hmm. Back in 0 AD, 100 AD, that's when Rome was kind of at its pinnacle.
Yep.
And the trade in the Mediterranean was going crazy. Everybody could see the growth happening. But Christ kind of changed things. Like when we talk about caveman ethics, caveman ethics is, if you kill the guy that knows how to start a fire, then you know how to start a fire, right?
Yeah.
So these guys ate each other because they believe that they gain powers from the guy that you ate.
Yeah.
Christ's message is completely the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I make a big deal about Thales, and he was about 600 BC, where he started saying that good teachers can explain themselves. They don't just tell you what to think; they tell you why. They tell you why it's true. And likewise, we sort of see that same change happening in the ethical plane, where it's no longer really about killing everybody who gets in your way, right? This whole idea of treat your neighbor like yourself, that's kind of the general idea.
Yeah.
But I have these theories of my own about what rules exactly worked so well.
Well, and I want to hear yours because I'm sure by our discussions now, I have quite a few theories on certain components of Scripture and Christ. I'd like to hear some of your theories on how it ended up working out that way, that message persevered.
All right. Well, let me tell you why. And I'm going to compare Thales and Christ directly. That's going to be confusing. There you go. All right. Christ has honesty, and it's these 3 big ones that I see: humility and charity.
Yeah. Service component, which basically summed up with those 3 things.
That's right. And when we talk about Thales and being honest, we mean evidence. We mean we got to actually have the truth.
Yeah.
Right. But I think in terms of ethics, honesty really paid off for the Christians in the sense of business ethics. Because if you get a reputation for being an honest businessman, that's a comparative advantage.
Yeah.
Christianity was a commercial religion in the sense that it was multi-ethnic, and it was kind of an idealization. It wasn't about who you were as a race or as a person. It wasn't about your mom and dad. It was about a choice. You have to make a personal decision to be a Christian. It's an idealization.
It's one of the most interesting things about Christianity, and we talked about it back with that one general Pompey, I think it was. Is that what it? No,
General Pompey who violated the sanctum.
But the reason I brought Christianity has always been interesting. And by Christianity I mean its roots in Judaism, but in the Hebrew nation, basically it is an information strictly based religion. It is, in other words, I am the Word and I am God. So that is meaning information, and that's what fucked Pompey's head up so much, right? Is because he walked in and he couldn't desecrate any idols, right? He had to fucking he saw these scriptures, he saw these scrolls. He's like, what is this shit? What are they doing? This is just info. I need to get out of here, you know?
And it wasn't, for his experience, it was probably less than that, because he was looking for something that wasn't there.
Yeah.
But from that, and that's kind of similar to the U.S. You know, we say the U.S. is a nation of ideas because it's not really about your standing. You know, any poor kid can come here, or any immigrants' children can get their act together, learn what they're talking about, do well in business, and rise to whatever level you want.
The Bill of Rights is effectively just a different version of a 10 Commandments. I mean, 1,000 years from now, you could very easily look at the first component of.
Well, hold on though. The 10 Commandments was very much, these are Yahweh's rules, and you have to follow them to get my favor.
No, I completely agree. I just mean structurally speaking. See, I think Yahweh's laws are transcendent to this world, while Bill of Rights was an attempt to incorporate something similar within the world, which backfired. But that's another topic.
Well, but that same distinction that we talked about so many times, however, you know, Christ brought this idealization of religion, and as Paul explained, you know, they don't have to do the sacrifices, they don't have to do the circumcision, they don't have to do all these things that Jews have traditionally done, because it's not that kind of religion anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact, it's perfectly acceptable to be born. You know, the traditions of Judaism can continue and should. This is something Paul makes a distinction on. Continue your tradition, Judaism. Continue your traditions, Gentiles, and consolidate under this one universal message of Christ, which is kind of the difference. It's for those messages that is at a time where there's a lot of you should do this and you should do this. If you don't do this, you're not in our religion. The message of Paul and Christ was, keep doing the traditions you're doing, but you still just consolidate under Christ. That's a good way to bring in other religions too, by the way.
That's true. And Christianity has traditionally done that, allowed other people's, rights to come into the fold.
Yep.
Humility, from Thales' point of view, is admitting that you can be wrong.
So a sense of objectivity, almost, in a sense.
Yeah, like the universe is greater than us. And going back to the idea that part of the reason Christianity did so well is because Christ's virtues gave advantage to the people who followed them. They seem like things that are for other people. But in a very real sense, the humility to admit you're wrong puts you into a learning state. You learn faster if you're humble.
Yeah.
And of course, that also helps with customer service, right?
Absolutely.
If someone comes and complains, the first thing you want to do is, let's assume the guy's not lying. Let's actually look and see what the problem is.
Yeah, you could argue that the customer's always right moniker may have came from a over-adaptation to humility.
Well, exactly. And that's another reason that above and beyond the way that they didn't get into all the fights, and above and beyond the way that their neighbors, kind of liked them better because they weren't dicks, they're also better in business because the customers don't feel like it's a big hassle to come in and tell the guy something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I don't got to fight the guy to get service.
Yep.
And then charity, and that's actually about feedback. When you look at Thales, charity doesn't really mean like we're giving people stuff. Charity means we're assuming the best about people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so being open to feedback is how business people learn what they need to do different.
Yep.
So my vision, my idea is that part of the reason that the Christians became so successful and sort of spread all over the world is because Christ taught them these successful business and learning behaviors.
Yeah, you had mentioned that, how it was kind of like there were, and this, I completely agree. The gatekeeper component of society, I don't think we barely even tapped the bottle of that one. We're going to have to hop back into the gatekeepers. But to the sense of what we talked about this, at this point in time, the like highest ranked government rulership and like the law doctrine of the Hebrew nation or the top religions, they kind of controlled the flow of information when it came to the successful things in life. And that's what created these ghettos, in a sense. That's what created these underserved areas. And when I say underserved, that's kind of intentional, because now what we're going to do, what Christ is going to do, is he's going to take all of these successful attributes that you just highlighted with Thales to a certain extent, and then he's kind of even going to go a step beyond that and amplify it to a message that's beyond the objectivity and within the humanity component that is a little bit of a level deeper than objectivity. The level of saying it's okay that someone messes up because I know I'm going to mess up in the future based on my previous actions. That's this reflective component that he kind of adds into there. But basically, yeah, great. But effectively, what he's going to do is bring it to these ghettos that have been created by the gatekeepers flowing the information at this lower rate. And I completely agree with that assessment on it. Basically, Christ is bridging the gap. He's one name for him is the great mediator, and that's exactly what he is here. He's a mediator between the gatekeepers and the common person.